Welcome back to the Optimize You podcast, the place where we're helping you optimize looking and feeling your best. If you enjoy the show, be sure to share it with a friend, like, and subscribe. And let's get into today's podcast. If you're thinking back and you're thinking about your entire journey, health and fitness, what's something or one thing that you look back on where you're like, man, that was either a mistake or I wish I would have learned that a little bit quicker?
So it comes to mind, obviously the last podcast we talked about overtraining, stuff like that, outworking your diet, which is a huge one of mine as well. But one of the biggest ones too that I still struggle with, I think a lot of people struggle with, not just within health and fitness, within every area of your life, career, different other things, is comparison, right? Comparing yourself to other people, right? Just as far as even in the context of like health and fitness, kind of looking at those bodybuilders, these like trying to get a physique that's maybe not even attainable naturally, right? Or trying to, like, you seeing other people in the gym that have been maybe doing it 10, 15, 20 years longer than me, and like being like, like trying to like over push, like, and do push more than I can actually like do, or, benching, trying to bench way more than I can actually bench, and using every other muscle but my chest to do it, getting injured, or risking injury because I'm trying to do way too much, right? And so I think that's kind of the biggest thing that I would say, not the biggest thing, but one of the biggest things that comes to mind when it comes to struggles. And I think that a lot of people struggle with that too, where you see all of these, like, YouTube is huge these days, right? YouTube's huge. There's a lot of fitness influencers that look really, really good, or the only time they show themselves is when they look really, really good. Because if you, like me, like when we walk around normally, it's not like we have like a six pack or anything like that, probably. Like, like maybe sometimes throughout the day you look good, or like, you're fasted in the morning, maybe like you go on a walk for 45 minutes and then you're like, I look fucking amazing. But also like certain lighting, like, is just really like down, like up, like from up to down lighting, right? Like you see that in like some gyms and you look really, really good. A lot of times what you see from these influencers out there is that they're only showing the times when they look super good. When they're walking around throughout the day, they look like me, you, like everybody, where they don't have a six pack showing. Nor does that even, like, that, once you get to that point too, or like when you get to a really low body fat percentage, it's not even fun. It fucking sucks, dude. Like, it's not fun. Like, there's a lot of side effects of it. But I think that, from my standpoint, right, like, I always wanted to look really, really good, not even necessarily for myself, but it was for other people. It's like other people are going to think I look cool. Oh, I'll get more girls if I look like this certain way and I have a six pack. It's like you think that by doing like certain things or by looking a certain way that you're going to impress people. And really, in the end of the day, like, you end up impressing the people you don't even fucking care to impress.
The
Right?
dudes.
The dudes, exactly.
Yeah,
Like, at a
yeah.
certain level, like, these bodybuilders, most women do not want like somebody
Yeah,
who
yeah.
is can't even move their arms, like
Right.
they
Yeah.
can't do, like, they couldn't swing a golf club or like
Yeah.
do any, it's like they got to walk like this, they can barely fit through like doors, it's like uncomfortable. Most women are like, you're at that point, you are impressing dudes.
Yeah.
And that's like,
Yeah. And
and then I'm not saying there's anything bad with it. Like, bodybuilding is fucking impressive. What those guys
yeah.
do, like, steroids, no steroids, I don't care what it is. Like, fucking kudos to those guys. I couldn't do that. Like, I can't do that. I will not do that. I will not put myself through that. That takes a lot of discipline and a lot of hard work to get to. But you're impressing dudes at that point.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
also like,
And
it's
I think,
fucking, it's impressive. I'm not
yeah,
saying like it isn't. I've watched a lot of that stuff, and but that's like in the form of comparison, like, we're comparing ourselves against something that's unattainable.
for sure. Yeah. And that's always going to be a trap for people. And it's the opportunity to just set yourself up to be discouraged. So a lot of people compare to other people. I think the comparison of where you might have once been to where you're at now, maybe that's a contrast too, that's going to discourage you. I know for me, if I compare where my best back squat was when I was competing and doing that, and doing competitions and stuff for like CrossFit stuff, like, dude, my back squat was way up there. If you asked me to do that today, like, I'm not even close. So like, if I get caught up in that when I'm training and I'm going like, damn, dude, I'm not even like the working percentages, like during my sets, are not even in the ballpark. Like, I'm just going to bury myself. So I think one of the things that's helped me too is go like, okay, what do you got here and now and today? And that's literally just putting your blinders on like a racehorse and go, okay, I want to maximize, I want to capitalize on today. We're not even promised tomorrow. If in the past is cool, it's cool to reference, and it's great to like glorify that stuff, but eventually you got to move on from it. You got to go, okay, what am I going to do here and now? And so I have this conversation with my clients a lot, is because not only you and I have experienced this too, but it's easier to see when somebody else is going through it, specifically if they've started at around the same time, or done something similar than their friend or family member or somebody else that they know that's going through. And let's say like their friend is doing keto and they dropped a ton of weight super fast, and they're like, well, I'm doing your program and my weight's not going that fast, like what's going on? I must be failing. And they start getting discouraged, like I might as well stop, I might as well do what they're doing. And so all of a sudden they see everything at like face value, surface level. So I always encourage people as well is look in the finer details and figure out the reason as to why those things are the way they are. So if we keep using that example, like, okay, if somebody was doing keto, your friend was doing keto, understand they're going to lose a lot of water weight, right? They're cutting out carbohydrate. Extend their time horizon. But where are they going to be? They might be losing weight rapidly right now, but what do they look like in the next 6 months, in the next 12 months? Were they able to keep it off? Were they able to sustain the rate at which they were going at? How much of that was lean body mass that they lost, right? Like, so all these things go into it versus going, hey, it's the story of the tortoise and the hare, right? Like slow, steady, sustainable. And I bet you by the time at that 6-12 month mark, if you've been serious about your journey, you've been embarking on it, the results that you will have when you cross that line will be far more enjoyable, far more beneficial than the rate at which your friend was going. And it made those first 2, 3, 4 weeks blazing, and it made them look amazing, right? Like, so it's always deeper than surface level. If you get yourself caught up looking at the tip of the iceberg, always look at the details and remind yourself, if I can focus on here and now, and I could just build the brick each and every single day, get really good at the boring shit, I promise you'll thank yourself later. A lot of that flashy shit is hard, man. Like, some people call it the woman in the red dress, like the Matrix thing, right? Like, she looks better and better every time she presents herself. Can you put your blinders on, see that low hanging fruit, see that eye candy, and be like, oh yeah, I need to stick to my process, because I will be able to reap the rewards and benefits from the seeds that I'm choosing to plant today, versus just get there with the NOS booster as fast as I can in the rocket ship. So I encourage people to do that. The comparison's a real thing, and it's enough to discourage people to quit, to make shitty decisions, to cut corners, to do things in an inappropriate way, less than ideal. It might be cool now. In the meantime, extend your time horizon out. It's a much easier lens to look through. Where do you want to be at the next 6 months, the 12 months, the next 6 years? Like, look in that time frame, and it makes your decision making a whole lot easier.
Yeah. When you don't know like what this person's going through. I think that's like I heard a really good thing from God, I think it was like Chris Williamson. I've sent you a few of his podcasts, Modern Wisdom. Great, one of my favorite podcasts. I think I probably mentioned that multiple times on here. Like, I think he's a really good interviewer, and he has some really interesting people on. And but he, I think, talked about, I think it was him, talked about how like Elon Musk, like maybe it was even Joe Rogan, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, like talks about how like Elon Musk like had said that like, you don't want to be me, right? It's like you don't want to be in my head. Like the problems that I deal with, the things like that it is like to be me, nobody wants. So like a lot of times somebody sees like just in that comparison aspect, that example of, wow, Elon Musk is worth billions and billions of dollars, right? Wow, like how awesome would it be to be worth billions and billions of dollars? But you don't see the day-to-day of being that person. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with health and fitness, weight loss, fat loss, like physique, like whatever it is. It's like you don't see the day-to-day hell that person's going through, right? And it's going to be different for every person, but especially just kind of seeing videos of bodybuilding and talking to people that are bodybuilders, it's like it's so down to the like so like restrictive for a lot of approaches. It's so like you have to eat this much and this much protein, and you know, like certain times a year, it's like you're shoveling food into your mouth to bulk, and it's just hell. Like it's you don't see that. You see the end result, right? And so it's like trying to be somebody who's worth a lot of money. It's like you see the end result and you're like, oh, that'd be really awesome to have that much money, but you didn't see all of the work that goes into that. Maybe you don't actually want that once you see what you have to do on a daily basis. And so it's almost like trying to figure out like, what do you actually want? And then what are you willing to put in? Like, what kind of work are you willing to put in on a daily basis to get there? You know, it's like you may think that you want a six pack, but once you understand what goes into having a six pack, maybe you don't want a six pack anymore. Maybe it's like, you know what? I just want to feel good. I want to have like energy. I want to feel good. I want to look good. And like feeling good and looking good doesn't mean a six pack. It just means like, you know, you look good. You look in the mirror and you're like happy with the way you look, and you're like proud of that, and you're proud of the work you put in. And that's what I want. And you know what? Like what I have to do on a daily basis to get there isn't like crazy, right? And I'm not always doing it all the time, but like it's not like I have to be so strict. Like I can have dessert. I can like if I miss a workout, it's not the end of the world. Like I can kind of go about life be like having a good balance. Like I can have a weekend where I eat like complete shit and know that it's not going to like totally go off the rails. But a lot of that also comes from just having more experience too, and like seeing that like the different things that happen, and seeing that like a week or 2 weeks off the plan and like really way off the plan doesn't get you as far away from the result as you think it does. But, you know, kind of bringing it back to comparison, I think that that can be a good approach for people, is to like think what you want, figure out what you want, like talk to some people who have achieved that, figure out what they did to get there, what they did to maintain it, because that's also a different thing too. And like figure out if that's what you really want. Like once you hear the stories of what it takes, and it's going to be different for different people too. Like just because somebody did X to get a six pack doesn't mean that's what you're going to be able to do, because when it comes to that goal too, a lot of factors play in, where it's like genetics play a factor. Maybe for me and Matt, like Matt can get a six pack at 15% body weight or body fat, but I got to get down to 5% body fat to get a six pack. And so like then like it's like, is it really worth it? Like, you know, it's some people can maintain a six pack easy. They don't have to do much. They don't have to think. Like they don't have to like restrict themselves. They can eat what they want and do it, like just because of the way they're built and the way their metabolism is and the way that their genetics are and how they lose body fat and where they lose it. Like it, but then there's other people where it's like you could put in all the effort in the world. It doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to show a six pack.
Yeah, it's the non-sexy stuff, and I think you bring up a really great point of like, look at what it is that you want, what it is that you desire, see what's required to be able to achieve that. You may not want it anymore once you figure that out, right?
Yeah.
And if you could see all the things that are required to be able to get there, to be able to achieve whatever it is you want, and then you're willing to sign up for it. Granted, you can move at your own pace, right? Like I created a checklist for my clients to be like, hey, these are the requirements. Where I'm going to meet you where you're at. We can bridge this gap based on where you're currently at right now. We don't have to go from where you're at to hit these requirements to go to the next stage. Like we'll take steps as slow as you want, but this is what is required to get to where you want to go. Like this is this is the demand to get the thing that you want. And the pace in which they choose to move at is completely up to them. But as long as you see the things that are required and you can kind of see them almost in like list format, you know what you're signing up for. Now it's no more surprise. I think a lot of people turn a blind eye to that and they just go, I just want the thing. Well, yeah, so does everybody else, but only few are willing to do what it takes to be able to achieve the thing. So therefore they're deserving of it. They've gone through the process. And I think a lot of people are like, I used to see, you hear this all the time too. I used to hear this a lot with women. They're like, well, I don't want to lift weights because I don't want to look like the girls on the CrossFit games. I'm like, okay, well, let's look at their demands. Let's look at some of their training ages, meaning how long they've been training for. They've been training for as long as you've been thinking about it. They've been training since you've ever considered this, plus, times 100. So like, think about that. Plus the amount of volume that they're doing in a single day is is absurd, right? Like, are you willing to train 3 to 4 hours a day, multiple times a day? Do you have a gymnastics background of 15 plus years? Do you have a weightlifting background of 10 plus years? Like, these are all the requirements and prerequisites to have the look and aesthetic that they do and they possess. And I think the women coming into it are like, oh, I don't want to lift weights because I don't want to look like that. That's like saying, like, I don't want to sign up and do like mini putt golf because I might mess around and beat Tiger Woods in real golf, right? Like that's like people's mentality is like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to just go do putt. I'm afraid I might beat Tiger, And so like that's people's approach with everything, especially with health and fitness.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I encourage you to even try and to attempt. And if you get there, great, all praise to you. But I think you're in for a rude awakening once you understand what's required to be able to get there. And so I think I encourage people to look at the process. If you found somebody that's done it, like Alex said, like look at how, and again, your road's going to be different, but at least you can see what a roadmap potentially looks like, and yours may look similar. And then you can really choose, man, do I really want that thing? You might find that you don't really desire that thing. You just think it's cool out of convenience. Like if all the stars align, you might be like, oh, that's sweet. If everything was perfect, then I would like to achieve it. Then I would like to get that 6-pack. I think it would be worth it then if I worked from home, if people made my meals for me, if somebody told me exactly what to do in my workouts. Like it's not like that. It's not like that. Very few people are going to have that kind of scenario. So I think if you look at the work that's required, you're willing to sign up for it. So before you're quick to compare yourself to somebody and go, man, like that must be nice, or it must be great that they have that. It's like, well, am I willing to do what they did to be able to get there? And if not, I have to be okay with that. I'm not going to be able to reap these rewards and get all these benefits from the inputs that I'm willing to put in aren't going to be enough and what's required to yield the output that I want. And it's just simple math, right? So I think people, before they get discouraged, look at what's required, and you'll be able to let some stress off your shoulders and go, oh yeah, I don't really want that because it's a little bit more demanding than what I thought. And that's why a lot of people don't have it.
Yeah. And honestly, as I think about this, I should recall this episode mistakes that I still make.
Yeah, totally.
Because I feel like this is a topic where it's like, I feel like it just takes constant reminders. Like I'll find myself doing it in my job where it's like I'm comparing myself to somebody who's been doing this job for 5 years, right? Yeah. I've been doing it for however many months, right? 3-4 months. It's like, I shouldn't be at that level, right? It's like, but we sometimes we see the numbers, or we see the physique, or we see whatever it is, like, and we're like, I should be there. And it's like, we're skipping a lot of chapters in the process. Like this person was, whatever it is, they were consistent with a approach for years and years and years before they got to where they were. I think about me in the gym, I was consistent for years and years and years and years and years. You were the same way, right? Like you've been consistent for probably 15, 20 years in the gym, right? It's just, that's what it takes. And a lot of times somebody will start and they'll look at somebody who's 20, 25, 30 years into their process. And it's like I should be there, right? And then they're so harsh on themselves. And I fall into this trap too. I'm so harsh on myself sometimes when it's like, gosh, like give yourself some grace. I think that's a huge thing with this comparison thing too, is like, first off, give yourself some grace. You're not going to just wake up one day and it's like you're fully gone from comparing yourself to others. You gotta be aware that you're doing it. You got to remind yourself of it, like that you don't want to do that. Remind yourself like of the way you want to go about things. And you also just got to remind yourself that like this is just a lifelong thing, right? It's not like you might be in a place where you don't want to be. You might have a body that you don't want, and you might see friends that are losing 10 pounds a week doing some approach, right? But the thing is like what you don't see is what happens next, right? You had mentioned this earlier. You don't see what happens 6 months, a year down the road. I can just, from experience with myself, from experience with clients, I know you can attest as well, Matt. We've seen it time and time again where people do these crazy approaches, especially on Facebook. I mean, I know we've been in groups and we've been in different things. It's like the constant yo-yo, the constant losing weight and putting it back on, and like that approach just happens over 5, 10, 20 years. and people get into a place where they're so dissatisfied, and eventually, like over the course of that period of time, some people kind of wake up and they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. You know what? I'm going to go about this the right way. And those are the people who are really happy with themselves, but it doesn't have to take that long of a period. It can be shorter if you just like decide today that, you know what, I'm going to stop comparison. I'm going to stop trying to compare myself to other people. Like, I'm going to make an effort and to be aware of when I'm doing it, and to bring myself back to the daily process. And you'll be really, really happy if you take that approach.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing about it is the fact that you're falling on your face in the process the more you do it, because it's gonna, all of a sudden this alarm's gonna go off in your head like, oh yeah, I remember, I've been there before. You brought up a great point. It's like, this is a constant reminding thing. This isn't like, oh, I got it figured out and I'll never compare myself again. You may have got one aspect of it, but chances of you comparing in, maybe you were comparing in health and fitness. Now the comparison comes up. You brought a great example, like in the work environment. Like, now I'm comparing myself to him, right? Now I'm comparing myself to a veteran that's got so many more repetitions than me. And having that self-awareness around it and noticing when you do it, I think it's a skill that needs to be developed. Obviously, we're all progressing and getting better at it, but I think your awareness around it when you're doing it, the more it sets off an alarm for you, the more repetitions you get, the better at it you will get. It's not to say that it's going to completely go away. I think it's just we get better at dealing with it and better at handling it and grounding ourselves and coming back and going like, oh yeah, I'm doing it again. I need to reground myself. I need to stay focused on my process. What's the thing that I can do today personally to move the needle? And what's the thing that, if I were to extrapolate out for the next year and I were continuously doing that thing, what is that thing that I'm getting better at each and every single day? In 1 year, if I look back, would I be happy with myself? Would I be satisfied with the growth? What is that thing? And if you can harness on that and not look at everybody else and what everybody else is doing, the shiny object syndrome, I think you'd be really happy. It's very hard, easier said than done. But when we can have the ability to harness in, man, we can change our outcomes. We can change our perspective. We can change the trajectory and the consistency in which we stay with something versus the second it gets hard, or we look at somebody else who's doing way better and we're quick to compare. And then we throw in the towel, we give up. So anytime you feel like that, it should set an alarm off in your head, or hopefully remind you of this conversation that Alex and I are having, and go, yeah, this is it. I'm doing it right now. I'm comparing myself. This is where I feel like trash. I feel like less than. I may even feel like imposter syndrome. I may feel like I suck at what I'm doing. I may even question why I'm doing it. Why am I even trying? Like, if all those thoughts are coming up, it should set an alarm off. Oh, yep, I'm doing it. I'm comparing myself right now. Let me reground myself. Let me come back to baseline. Let me focus on what I can do here and now. What's going to get me better, not how can I get better than somebody else who has been doing this way longer than me or has way more resources or whatever, right? Like, so I think that's where people fall into the trap. So if you can reground yourself, and I say this because I'm talking to myself as well, if you can reground yourself in the process, man, you get back on your track, you get back to you progressing, you get back to you getting better day in and day out. And all of a sudden that comparison stuff can kind of drift away, at least temporarily.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, and this is definitely a reminder to me too. I think a lot of these podcasts are a reminder to me because
They are, dude.
you go through like, it's just like anything. Like, sometimes you could fix something or think you have something fixed, and then a year later you're back into that thing again. Like, you have a year where you're off, but then like so slowly you find that you drift back into things. And I think comparison is just that thing where, we're always working to get better with it and become aware of it. And this is good, man. I love this this little segment type thing, that this little kind of series almost that we're doing within the podcast. Let us know too in the comments if you enjoy this structure, if you want us to keep rocking and rolling with some more mistakes. We got plenty of them, right? We got tons of them. So like,
we got ammo.
We got ammo. We could probably do like 30 episodes on this shit. We'll just keep doing this. I think this is a really good one. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully this was helpful. If it was, again, all we ask, like, subscribe, and just share this with somebody that you think could benefit from it, that maybe struggles with this, or that is just into health, fitness, getting better, becoming the best version of themselves, and inevitably trying to look and feel their best, right? Because that's who we're really talking to here. Is we're talking to the younger version of ourselves. So we do appreciate you guys. taking the time again out of your week to listen and to watch these every week. We hope you have a good rest of the week, and we will be talking to you soon.